So maybe one of those two medium problems. Frequency is very high. Interesting. How can a problem from like last contest, how can it have such a big frequency? Or this one? Already so many people marked it as appearing in interviews? Strange. Well, yeah. One of the medium problems will be, I think, a good warm-up. XOR queries. Let's try this. Compute the XOR of elements from L to R. What? Is that it? Okay, that's not an interesting problem, sadly. It's just about knowing prefix sums. It's maybe a good educational problem. I would recommend this for somebody who just learned prefix sums. Here, of course, we deal with XOR, not with sum, but it's all the same thing. Just as long as you can cancel or subtract shorter prefix. Right, we compute prefix XOR up to every position, then this for every query, L is the first value, this is the second one. Is it from 1 to n or 0 for n minus 1? 0 to n minus 1, cool. Then answer is everything up to R, XOR everything up to L minus 1, assuming that it does exist. Bonjour, hello, Rishi. Output expected, so that was fast. This one has some longer statement. What about the hard one? Can I solve this? Hi Imian, Lakshai. Hello everybody. Make string a palindrome by inserting new characters. Hi xreal. Right, what about this? If there is something like, let's say, Leetcode, then if first and last character, if they are the same, then I can just skip them. They are good, and let's take care of the remaining part. But otherwise, if it's like this, L versus E, then I think I have just two possibilities. Either I insert E or I insert L. And in both cases, I just then remove those characters because they are the same, and I continue. Remove this or remove that, and I'm left with this remaining string, which means I'm left with this Leetcode or itcode by doing one operation. So I would say that we start from both ends. If two characters are the same, we can just skip them. Otherwise, we have a choice between cutting just one character because we match it in the other side. And we want optimal way to get rid of the whole string, to eat the whole string. That is for sure DP. Paper comparing two different self-chosen algorithms of BFS and DFS. Or like Dijkstra and Floyd Warshall. I don't know what difficulty you want. Yeah, this is for sure DP. And well, always what's left is some part of this string. So from L to R. I will have dp of LR. Int. This will be defined as mean number of moves so far, or operations, to get to this state. I mean, this is not necessary. Minimum number of operations so far when we started from both ends. And we want to get to empty string, or maybe just a single character is also fine because we can say it's a palindrome. This is 0. Here I need to iterate with R decreasingly. Otherwise, like, I would not go in proper order because I can shrink stuff. So after considering this state, I want to consider this state. No delete, just insert. Yes. Why the exclamation mark? Happy number problem? You can give me a link. I will take a look later. Deleting mean characters to make string palindrome? Good question. I think it turns out the same. So here I consider inserting, looking from both endpoints, but the fact that I'm inserting something to match something on the other end, it's like removing that thing on the other end. So it seems that the number of insertions needed and the number of removals needed is the same. Hi, SIs, SES. CS. All right, from this state we move forward. So if those two are the same, then we move from LR, this is pseudocode for now, to this. Otherwise, we consider moving to this state or to this state. And all right. There is some kind of infinity value. Only this state is achievable. I fill it as 0, and then every line like this will actually be minimizing. Like this is minimum of itself and that. So let's implement a helper function for that. I call it mini. Actually, let's say this. This is my state. The current state. All right. Here, this yields one extra operation, so I need to say me plus 1. If I used 5 operations so far, now it's 6 operations. And this. Find LCS of string and its reverse, then subtracting the original length of S with LCS length. Alright, but that's harder, right? And not much harder. Finding LCS of string and its reverse. So you again try to match stuff. Won't there be any issues? Like, consider that there is some string, let's say like this, and then the same from the end. Actually, some characters are the same, sure. So I'm still thinking about this comment that may find LCS of string and its reverse. This maybe matches with that, this with that. So let's say we have some connections. Of course, well, the characters would need to be the same. Say those two 3s and the two 0s. Is everything alright here? Shouldn't we take like half of this LCS? No, we shouldn't. Should we? It's confusing a little bit. What about this EDOCTEL? What's common subsequence? Let's start with E, D, O, E, maybe those 3 characters. The taken subsequence will always be a palindrome. I don't know that. The longest common subsequence. Yeah, I'm not sure. Longest palindromic subsequence. It isn't obvious to me why is that. I will finish my solution and then think some more. Right, if maybe let's do it here. If L is equal to R, or maybe this answer minimize with me. If intervals is of size 2, minimize answer with me, plus 1 if those two characters are different. And I don't want here any kind of error. So actually I shouldn't make those transitions, should I? Oh, and I don't need to do that, because always if something is of length 2, right. If this, then continue. Then what's left? There is a case where those are two different characters, and then just it will move there, that's fine. But in this case, if they are equal, maybe let's say if this is the case, actually this value exists, but whatever, mini answer me. And now it should be good. I don't think I will get any other kind of out of array errors. Good. I hope so. This thing below, it makes sense. I can believe it, but it's not that I'm sure. Oh, there was use example test case. 0, 2, and 5. 0, 2, and 5. All right. Oh, nice. This, I don't see why this button isn't like kind of clicked by default. Hi, Rahularity. 0, 1, good. Accepted. So now what's left is to understand what Nathan said. Is there no editorial? Discuss longest common subsequence. Intuition. Split the string S into two parts. Try to make it symmetrical by adding letters. Okay, indeed, there is some split, some two parts. Find the longest common sequence. I mean, I still don't think that this is that easy to say. So Leetcode. So there exists some split point, maybe in one character. I don't like the fact that the split point is in different places in the two strings. Why can't there be some subsequence of this that is also a subsequence of that and it's not a palindrome? That's the only issue. I will write down my issue. Well, it's actually equivalent to this previous line. Why can't there be a long subsequence? This is not a palindrome. Maybe because if you take any two characters, let's say D and E, if you also found them in the other string, then the fact that there is E after this D, it means that there is something like that before this D. So this character, the one marked X here, the corresponding character in reversed string is somewhere here, and because there was something to the right of it here, we can expand our choice in the bottom string as well, and the other way around. If there was DE, then there will be E on the left here. So always I can say if I chose, for example, the E, there will be another E on the left from D. Unless D is the first character. Why can't I equally, like, why can't I say that also on the right from E there must be D? There is none. Oh yeah, because this E and this one are different E's. Okay, that's a big difference. Yeah, I don't think this proof works. I don't see why this is true. Codeworks is more beginner friendly than Leetcode. I mean, I don't know. What website was that? Oh, this one. I did, like, after you click C++, it tells you to compute the product of two numbers or something like that, right? Yeah. Try to figure out why. You need to type return, and then it tells you to log in. All right, so I got to this point. I wanted to check it out, and but I didn't want to register. So I don't really know code words. Powered by qualified. For some reason, I remember the name of this website. I don't know. All right, I think this will remain a mystery. Intuitively, I see why this is true, but I don't have a formal proof. But trying a formal proof would be boring. Imposter Among Us, yeah. I hope you like the t-shirt. It would be nice that now that I have something like that, it would be nice to play Among Us again during a stream. But it's not really that I want to do it. I want to spend time setting everything up. You know, every kind of game, even if it's cool, you get a little bit bored of after some months. So I would play some Among Us if I had time. Easy hard DS problem. So easy or hard? Easy hard DS problem. You mean easy problem that requires hard data structure? What is this? Good at concurrent programming? No. I mean, I got to finals of distributed code gem, so I know some algorithms, but it's not that I'm an expert at parallel programming. Okay, I'm reading this, but maybe I will skip if it's boring. Okay, we need to run BFS to know distances. You're 0. Your friends. Are you 0? You have ID equal to 0. All right. Oh, you're given ID. Given your ID. Cool. So you need to run BFS from this to know how many people there are on every level, and then also use videos. Medley screencast by second thread. What is medley? Is it some typo? Medley? So I don't think this problem is interesting, so let's try something else. Adjacent swaps for k consecutive ones. What is this? K consecutive ones. I did this problem before. I'm sure. I didn't see my code, but I did it during one of the streams. Well, actually, it might be during something like private lessons, or so maybe not during a stream. I don't know, but I did this already. I think it was during a stream. Increasing path in a matrix, maybe that. Logic of digit queries. It's not. It's problem. This is a stream with coding interview problems, not something unrelated. Number of dislikes. What that watched videos? That one was a lot of disliked. Oh yeah, more dislikes than likes. I need to look at this when choosing a problem. So this one is cool. This one was cool. Represent graph in Java. Almost always I represent graphs as agency list. Programming language doesn't matter that much. If it's dense or the number of vertices is small, then it's some kind of matrix. But if you want to efficiently iterate neighbors, and this is what mostly we do in any kind of traversal algorithm like DFS, then for every vertex you know a list of neighbors. One with list submissions, that might be some very annoying problem. Length of longest increasing path in matrix. Let's do this. You can run DFS in what here? I don't think so. In any kind of to find longest path in directed graph, that's NP hard. In undirected graph, it's the same. But there must be something special here, and of course you might think, oh, but this is a grid. Still, like if you're given a grid and you're given information that from this cell you can move to those neighbors, something like that, I think, well, it's still exponential. Yeah, it's still NP hard. Unless there are no cycles. I mean, this problem makes sense only if there are no cycles, or if there is a cycle, then the difficulty here is to avoid repetitions. Something like that. But this problem becomes much easier if there are no cycles. So that I should have written here longest simple path. Simple means no intersections. And let's say that this is easy. Finding longest simple path can't be not simple in directed acyclic graph. So graph without cycles, because then you can go from in topological order, and it will be easy to find one here. And indeed there are no cycles here, because we want increasing path, so always from value we go to bigger value. And so that's our topo sort already. We don't need to run topo sort. Starting AI and machine learning. I mean, if you want to start something, just you can Google materials on it. You know, you can find, I don't know, AI course, machine learning course. What about doing that and seeing, is there something in first lessons that you don't know? When I started doing some machine learning, it was just, you know, watching some videos online and then applying those things in a program. I didn't think before if there are some prerequisites that I don't know. If there were, then I would start learning them. All right, so this is a DAG, and I'm going to, I didn't grab my drawing tablet, but I'm going to start from low values, and for them I will say that for each of them you can be a start, so your answer is 1, how long path I had so far. Then each of the neighbors I will mark properly, 2, 2, 2. It's kind of like anti-BFS. It's not BFS because I don't want shortest path, but yeah, I want longest path. So then after considering ones, I look at 2 and I see, okay, I can move to this neighbor with cost of 3. And let's assume that here we had 8, not 6, 8. Then the next step would be from this 6 to look at neighbors and override them as 4. So this would become 4, and here we had 2. This meant that we can get to this cell in 2 steps from somewhere. Actually, it was from here. I mean, two cells with the total. But now I know that I can move from 6 to 8. This is 8, let's assume. So I override this as 4. But once in this sorted order, so first consider this cell, that, then, yeah, I missed 4. But after 4 there are 6, 8s, 9s. In this order we consider stuff. We always, when we get to some cell and now I want to propagate from you, move to neighbors, this value is already computed well because I already considered all smaller values so I updated properly this value. So when I get to 8 and I want to consider neighbors, this value is final. Same thing in any kind of DAG. DAG usually you can represent like this with just some kind of arrows moving to the right. If all the edges move to the right, then this is a DAG. So in something like that, if you go in this order from left to right and say, okay, those are first ones, then this is 2, this is 2. Actually, now it's very important that we consider this guy before this one. If we now, as the next value, as the next vertex, consider this guy and put 3 here, that's wrong. But this isn't good topo sort. We shouldn't go 1, 2, 3. No, this vertex is before this one. When considering a vertex, we want to already have processed all other vertices from which you can get here. So you need to consider this one first. So this number doesn't exist yet. Consider this one first. It puts here a 3, and only then you can consider that. And it will put here a 4. Also 3 was put there. This 3 will put here and there 4s. This 4 will override this 1 to 5, and that's it. To find topo sort, you don't need priority queue. It's enough if you start from leaves, so from those vertices where to where there are no edges, so input degree must be 0, so those are those kind of leaves. And then always when you see that some next vertex to which you have an edge is already exhausted, when you're out of in degree. So whenever you see this, you have this vertex, you look at this next vertex, you update its value, but also you decrease its input degree by 1 because you consider removing this edge. Then also for this guy we remove this edge, and whenever we decrease somebody's degree down to 0, we also run DFS, or we put it to some kind of queue or stack, doesn't matter. In some way we need to trigger, okay, I want to run the algorithm for this vertex as well. In our thing here, we don't need priority queue because nothing is dynamic. I will just sort the cells. You know, priority queue is more complicated than sorting. If you don't want to insert new values, you just want order, never use priority queue, just use sort. Here BFS doesn't work and DFS either. You are not looking for shortest paths, so the BFS is bad, and DFS is bad because it doesn't find any particular kind of path. It just finds that something is reachable, and that's it. Height is matrix size. Width is matrix of 0, that size. What do we return? This. Actually, I should have looked at constraints. They are from 1, so I don't need to check this. Height and width, they do exist. To make it a little bit nicer, let's use constants. And what now? Sort all the cells. Values pushback, and let's take a vector with value and position to then sort them increasingly. And now I can iterate over those tuples. Row was value of 1, column was value of 2. Value of 0 was the value itself. distance. Initially, everywhere I put 1, which means, yeah, I can start here and I will visit one cell, but then I will keep overwriting, I will keep improving. Here I need to say for all neighbors, something like distance of that neighbor is maximum of itself and my distance plus 1. Right? Yeah, like if I have 3 steps so far, then he has 4. By this maximize to C2. This could also be a function maxi from the previous code, but I don't want to introduce unnecessary function for just a single thing. Can we solve it using DP? This is kind of DP, but you need some proper order. You can argue that doing topo sort in DAG is dynamic programming. I wouldn't say so, but maybe there are some similarities. This problem cannot be solved without sorting values or something equivalent. Team is indeed monokai. What's going on? I'm solving problems, algorithmic problems. I have to iterate over neighbors. Well, that's almost always I create this global array here with 4 directions, like 0, 1 for north, 1, 0 for east, and so on. Let's do something different this time, just to show you that you can do various things. For every row 2, from row -1, like that. Let's hide the drawings. What did I do? I iterate, let's say that, actually I need drawings, just different ones. No, if I'm looking at some kind of cell with coordinates 5, 2, then by iterating over row smaller by 1 up to greater by 1, I iterate over this row, and this row. Same with column, this, and that. And so actually it turns out that I iterate over square of 9 cells. But that would allow diagonal moves as well, and iterating over this cell itself. So I need to check if what I found is indeed a neighbor, and the easiest way to do that is to check the distance. When you subtract coordinates and add absolute differences, this is like computing the number of steps you would need to take to go from one cell to the other. As let's say that you can always move to adjacent cell. That's called Manhattan distance. If this is exactly a neighbor, only then consider this, and also well, maximize answer with value of 0. Can we convert it into 1D array and sort, then find the longest increasing subarray? But you lose information about neighboring. How do you convert grid into one-dimensional array? You can take row by row, but then you lose information about, one above the other neighbors. So you cannot just take this grid and say that this is like 9, 9, 4, 6, 6, 8, and so on. And also the path is allowed to make different kind of shapes, so it's not just increasing to the right or decreasing. Why difficult to understand? Any kind of science or activity, like if you don't know, if you don't know enough, then some advanced stuff will scare you. All right, I have an error. Whose is the mistake? Because I don't. Run DFS from every node and memo them? No, that's wrong. Like, what will happen if you run DFS from every node? You would need to do something equivalent to topo sort, and if you don't store input degrees, then that's bad. In BFS, we add neighbor into queue only if its value is greater than the current cell, and finally calculate furthest neighbor. What, without this kind of sort? With what order? Because BFS is designed to find shortest paths, and it goes layer by layer with things sorted by distance. If we first sort cells by value, like I did, then this second part, yeah, you can call it BFS, but you need to go in this order, in this specific order, like line 15. Nothing else is allowed. So yeah, out of bounds. Oh yeah, when I go through neighbors, can't you get out of bounds? Yes. Exactly what Detonat said. I need this, and I need R2C2 to represent cell within a grid. This line will become a mess, so let's create a function. Is inside. Row must be from 0 and smaller than h. Similar thing for column from 0 to width -1. By the way, do yourself a favor and don't use variable names like I and j for row and column. Make it meaningful. If x and y are obvious for you, then go with x and y. I prefer row and column because xy is actually in math, x's go to the right and y's grow up, but in matrix enumeration, like pixels numbered in your monitor, in programming generally they are like first value is counted from above down, and then the second value is column, so from left to right. And because of this difference between math coordinate system and matrix enumeration system, I think xy are bad. Right, and I don't check values, right? Strictly smaller, because now I got the answer of 9. I wonder if always I would get the full grid. I don't think so. But I will later revert this change to try to fix it. It's wrong. Amazon OA today. Any tips? I don't know what is OA, but I guess some kind of interview. But yeah, I would need to know what is OA. Maximizing answer. Yes, I should do that. Oh, I shouldn't do that. I should take distance of, okay. So I actually printed the value from matrix, a 9. And it was just a coincidence that it's equal to size of the grid. Maybe I wouldn't make this mistake if here I iterate over rows and columns to just to make answer be maximum of everything. Online assessment. All right, thanks. Yeah, I didn't know. Any tips? Well, with algorithmic problems, like in math, I don't think you can get any kind of tip a day before math test. If you didn't study for a year for math test, then you will do badly. Math and related topics like programming problems are something quite objective and something where you need to put a lot of practice. Sorry about that. Do I have any kind of tip? I have tips for practicing, for actual thing, a test or assessment. Sleep well a day before, have some water, a snack, like, Snickers or something, and that's it. Can you explain the solution? Yeah, I can again simulate it here, or maybe there, just briefly. We sort all the cells by value. So this I want to consider first, then those, then a 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. For initially, the distance of row column is called like how many cells I can visit before I get here. I mean, including this cell. Initially, everything is filled with 1. Like that. Alright, then what? I go in this order from decreasing because I cannot do any other order. Like if I first consider this one, 5, then I look at neighbors that are greater than me. I see 6, so I know that actually 6, you can have answer of 2, because I know that there was 1 cell visited up to here, and then 2 up to there. But this is wrong answer. It uses wrong value here. Like this is maybe more like Dijkstra rather than I don't know, DFS. In both BFS and Dijkstra, if you want to use my current distance to update distances for other vertices, my distance needs to already be computed correctly, because it was unnecessary and maybe even wrong to put 2 here. Because later you will consider all the other cells, but you will never anymore be able to, from 5, look at 6, because you already considered 5. But what we do instead is we go from smallest, we look at neighbors and we update their values by myself plus 1. Then we consider all the 2's in some order. The order doesn't matter because they don't affect each other. But after we consider all the 2's, this value will be 2, this value will be 2, and I believe that's it. Then this 3 will do nothing, this 3 will do nothing because this was already 2, but this will later become 3, and so far this was, oh no, this was 2, and then this 2 becomes 4. And that's it. My solution is easier. Page not found. I watch coding, I couldn't open your submission. Tutorial on interactive problems. Any kind of suggestions you can put for videos, you can put in YouTube comments. 2 reasons for that. First is other people can upvote you if they agree and I will see it. The other one is you're helping me with YouTube algorithm. It's good to have a lot of views and a lot of comments. All dreams and mashup by a particular person in code forces. I don't know. Is this optimal? Yes, you cannot do better because in particular you need to check every cell of the matrix. Every cell can affect the answer. So yeah, you need to touch at least once every cell, and that's quadratic anyway. I mean, height times width. I do something for every cell in constant time. Oh, actually, I do the sorting. So that's grid size times logarithm, and then the question is whether this can be improved. But maybe it can be proved that in particular we need to sort, and then there are some proofs about limits how fast you can sort. That being said, question, is this an optimal solution, is usually very difficult. I would say that you should, if you're not very good, you shouldn't ask yourself that question. because a lot of times explaining why this is the best is very difficult, unless you exactly hit the input size. If input size is n and you have O of n, then yeah, that's optimal, unless you could do something, unless you don't have to even check all the values because you know something about them. Like if the sequence is increasing, like there is a long increasing sequence, and you're looking for value 20. The thing with binary search is that after you check some value, like this one, and you see that this is 8, and the sequence is increasing, then you know that 20, if it exists, it is on the right. So in this binary search algorithm, we never check those values on the left. This is a case when complexity is smaller than input size, but it's a very rare case. Most of the time, like 95% of the time, like here, we need to check every value because it can affect the answer. It's not that after checking some value we know that some other part of the grid doesn't matter. And then the complexity must be at least size of the grid, so height multiplied by width. Did I try Algo Expert? Yes. Like I got free access like a year ago. It's fine. I think it's currently the best resource out there with video editorials. So it's just the question whether you like video editorials. You cannot find anything there, like, you know, with Control F, and it's harder to go your own speed through the text. I think that in the perfect system, explanation should be text, maybe with some extra video explanation. So yeah, that's my Algo Expert review. It's good enough if you like videos, but you know, there are also some bad things, like tests are weak. I think they are very small. It's not a big issue. Here's the link. Okay, so that's the better, simpler solution. What do we have? Traverse for row and column. Okay, for every cell we traverse starting from it, return DRC. For all the neighbors, if I'm greater or equal than he is, then continue. Otherwise, so this, if my neighbor is bigger than me, and find the maximum and do this. All right. So you're doing toposort. Toposort or topological sort is exactly to iterate over all vertices and to compute my answer, like it depends a little bit on what way the edges are directed. To compute my answer, I can use all the previous values. I need a drawing, and I need to finally take the drawing tablet. Will you be releasing your own platform? Yes, I think so. Just don't. If you're preparing for interviews, don't wait for my platform. I'm not going to hurry. If somebody has just joined, I solved this problem, and now we are analyzing solution by iWatch coding. Something different with DFSs without a sort. So it doesn't have logarithm here, but it strongly uses the fact that the number of neighbors is small. I think. Well, no, not really. But yeah, toposort can be done without logarithm. So forget what I said about small number of neighbors. Right, now I can draw. We iterate over bigger values. We do something like that. Okay, so in a DAG, when we want to find the longest path, I want to find, let's say, longest path from this vertex. I look at its neighbors, and if I know the longest paths for them, 6 means that there exists here a path with 6 vertices directed to the right. Like that. Maybe also there are some other things. You know, something. Maybe this is the graph. And then here I want to say 7. So you can, to know the answer for this vertex, you need to know answers for those. And if something is still an unknown, like you don't know this, it's not yet computed, then just you compute it here by iterating over the next vertices. This is one way to do toposort. I wanted to solve a problem without toposort. Now I would say that indeed it wasn't a good idea to avoid toposort. In particular, obviously, because here it's better complexity. This is height times width, while I had height times width times logarithm because I sorted values. Interviewing, asking out of curiosity if the plans remain the same. Yes, the plans remain the same. The platform is partially done. I visit one node only once. Yes, I mean, well, you have this, so this is run many times for the same vertex, but this is computed once for every vertex, and that's important. Like this is once run if some vertex has 3 in edges, like that, then you will run this function for this vertex up to 3 extra times, because each of those previous guys will want to check the next vertex, and it will run traverse of RC. If you replaced here this line, this one, with something like, if it's already computed for that vertex, then don't even run the traverse function, but instead read from a map, then I would agree that for every node, we enter this function only once. Which algorithm is this? That's toposort, topological sort. Linked list problem? I don't want linked lists today. How do we pick the first node to start from? You can do it in any order. No. Look at this graph. Previously, we needed to start from this one to keep propagating, but now let's say that actually I start from this one. Then I check the next vertices, so this one and this one. I run recursively to compute their scores. I will compute 1 and 2. Then for this one, I write 3. Assume that I started here. And it's fine that I started here, because if only later, like this for loop, only later runs something for this vertex, it will correctly compute 4. You can think that this function is run lazily for a vertex whenever it's needed. So just in any order. You want to know this function for every vertex, but you don't care about the order of computations. But the fact that to compute this, it runs those vertices as well, this obviously means that they will be computed in some order. Like you will not put this value here before those 2 values are computed, but recursion will handle that. Duplicate 0, what? I don't know what that refers to. You're welcome. Alrighty, let's move on. I would use dark mode, but most of the time in Leetcode half of the screen is anyway dark. But then quite bad thing is that here we get white. It should be at least brown, I would say. Can we do duplicate zero problem? Give me a link. So I don't want to Google various names because I don't know what duplicate zero means. I don't know that problem. I don't know the number. Something easy maybe. Just as long as the statement is short. If you prefer harder problems, don't worry, because it's easy. It will take me like a small amount of time. Greatest element at right side. This almost sounds like monotonic stack. Like for every element, if you need to find next greater element on the, let's say, right, you do that with monotonic stack. Replace every element in that array with the greatest element among the elements to its right, and replace the last element with -1. Did they give two problems in the same contest for Prefix XOR? No, it's a different contest. Okay, I thought that there was a contest with 4 problems, and the first 2 of them were about prefix sums. Or actually, one was about Prefix XOR and the other about Prefix maximum. So here, given an array for every position, so like for 4, we need to find the biggest element on the right. So in this position, we need to find what's the maximum among 6, 1. And of course, there's a brute force, like this. Oh, link. Right. Iterate over all the values on the right. Maximize answer with array of j. Right. Like for I equal to 3, I want to check indices 4, 5, 6 up to n-1. And maybe the most common technique for optimizing something, for improving the complexity, is to look for repeated work. There are various ways to say how to optimize this problem. By the way, always in any kind of course or a book, including critiquing the coding interview, those methods of solving problems are explained with some very easy example. And I think that this is bad. I think that it's such an easy example that sure, everybody can do that here. But here, the 2 methods that you should try to also apply in other problems, maybe I should mention them more often, is 1, look for repeated work. And yeah, every book will tell you that. But second, and for some reason they don't stress on it, is if your big complexity comes from nested for loops, get rid of the most inner or the inside for loop, or just loop. And here it helps to say out loud what it does. What this for loop finds? It finds maximum from some position to the right. And once you say that, once you state in English what it does, you need to think about the technique to do that. And there is technique exactly to know maximum in suffix, because everything to the right is suffix. It's called suffix maximum. Yeah, so here it's more like if you know the technique, then you know the technique. Not very useful in this case. And by look for repeated work, I mean, even if this technique didn't work, here I mean this. When you have some kind of array, when for I equal to 0, you go through elements to the right and you find maximum, it turns out to be 18, but you went for elements 18, 5, 4, 6, 1, and you found that maximum is 18. then when you have I equal to 1, so when you look at 18 and you now consider elements to the right, you go through the same elements. Maximum here and maximum there almost always are the same. The only case where it's not true is when 18 is maximum. So if it was harder problem and you struggled with that, one possible path what would be happening here is that you first say, all right, for 17, if I find maximum there, if it's not this position, if let's say that this value was 3, and I found out, okay, the maximum is here, a 6 is maximum, then I know that it's the same maximum when I look for from 3 to the right, and from 5 to the right, and from 4 to the right. So this is some improvement. It would be something like, for every I, so you first find max on the right, let's call it position on position, let's say P. I mean, you found out that it's on position P. Then we need to say answer of I is P, but also answer for all the future values up to P minus 1. And then move to P or P minus 1 to then start from P. So you can jump over some interval. Cheer 1. What is this? Some Twitch command to pay with a cheer? Have a look at this problem. Generate parentheses. I see a lot of suggestions, so I will look at them after I'm done with this easy problem. So yeah, this is still quadratic, because pessimistically the maximum you will find immediately to the right from you, and then you improved nothing. But still, this idea came from the fact that there is repeated work, and I will say this again. When we find maximum from 17 to the right and from 18 to the right, we consider almost the same elements, those and those. And while after you find maximum here, you won't necessarily know the maximum there. The other way around is true. By the way, going in reverse is extremely common technique, or maybe trick to use. Going in reverse sometimes makes problem much easier. Here, even if you don't know those values, they are something, but somebody tells you the maximum, and this is something. 18 maybe let's say this is 9. If I tell you that maximum in this suffix, so if I tell you that answer for this position, maximum on the right, is 8, then in constant time you know what's the maximum from 17 to the right. That's eliminating the repeated work. I want to only once go through those elements. Previously, maybe this was a very long sequence. No, imagine that it's like this. Let's go through those and know the maximum and reuse it. If the maximum here was 8, then you know, okay, 9 is bigger, so 9 is maximum. If maximum here is bigger than 9 or equal to 9, then we can just take this maximum. So from this you get something like that. Answer for 0 is max answer of 1, comma, array of 1. Answer of 0 is maximum from 0 to the right without 0. So this says take answer, so maximum only for this, and also consider this element. But this is a general formula for every I this works. And this is how you can come up yourself with suffix maximum, even if you don't know it. Just look for repeated work. And we go in reverse, because answer of I uses answer of I plus 1. Also, they defined the last answer as minus 1. And square accepted here? No. They don't tell you that, but in Leetcode there are multiple test cases. So I'm quite sure that n square isn't supposed to pass. The constraints are quite low, mainly to allow for various languages, including Python, which is slower than C++. But yeah, when you see this, don't try n square in Leetcode. What about going in reverse order on the array? I mean, I did in reverse order. I went from right to left. Favorite data structure? I don't know. I don't have favorite color or algorithm. I'm good at the geometry and combinatorics probability. So maybe topics. Because I'm good at something, I will like it more. So maybe the category is something I can like. I don't like graphs, but I like dynamic programming. And maybe it's the same with algorithms. The more I understand something, the more I will like it. For example, I know Berle-Camp-Massey, a very, very complicated algorithm, but I understand it, so it's fine for me. Well, most people just treat it like a black box. Short solution here by Rentip, or maybe not by Rentip, but just he pasted the code, a link to the code. So we go from the end. Max being -1, we swap max with array of I, and then we do this. Well, what kind of magic is that? Quite good at computational geometry. This is how I found your channel from Clement's Google interview. That's funny. Yeah, I am quite good at computational geometry. Why n-2? There was a question. Because for n-1, so the last element, they said the answer is -1, and then I start from the previous one. So here I want to say answer of n-1, then I start computing from there, and that's answer of n-2. Difference between plus, you can, I don't want to explain that very often. You can Google it. The returned value is different, but assume that it doesn't matter. Here it doesn't matter. Right, I want to take this solution and analyze it. Why do we swap? So max, I guess, is something like maximum so far. But why do we do this rather than assigning? Doesn't it work if we do this? I don't see what's the point of swap. It's not shorter. I'm submitting this just to see if it works. Max, yeah, max. Wrong answer. Oh, I see. I override the value. Fine. Fine. So I would want something like Python style of code where we do this would work. Maybe there is tie nowadays in C++, something like that. But in Python this would work properly. Array of I, this max, comma, max of the two. Right? This would work in Python. Well, cool. At least now I understand what I didn't understand before. Exchange is for that. replaces the value of object with new value and returns the old value of object. I see. So let's actually try this. I will not use it anymore in the future. I will forget about it immediately. I will maybe remember the existence, but I'm not going to use it. So mask array of I becomes max. This will return the old value. Like that. Python style is better for that. Alright, accepted now. I wonder if this can be improved. And of course, I'm not talking about some simple tricks like removing spaces. I greater equals 0 can be checked easier as well. Like I plus 1. This does the same. It checks if I plus 1 is not 0, so it will break at I equal to minus 1. You can also combine it for sure with minus minus. I don't want this. Oh, I thought that I closed the program, but the drawing is still there. Not I, but negation of I. So this also, for minus 1, I is filled with ones. Just to say hi. Hi, Genshreddy. Keep the loop index to be size t. Sure. I don't see how that helps. I'm not an expert in optimizing things like here because you need to know C++. It's more that I thought if logically this can be improved a little bit. Don't call array size every time, maybe. It's called just once. Here, this is for loop where it says start from here and then keep doing and checking that. I mean, this. Yeah, I don't see how to improve it. Type of max, neat. Yeah, this just, this line, you can imagine that it's here. Same thing. You don't type int. Generate parentheses again. So what's CSK? What's up with this problem? Is it hard, easy, interesting? No editorial? Move on to the last question if you want to. Why last question? But yeah, I'm going to move on to the next question. So this suggested by CSK. First missing positive. We do it in O of n time. That's something, it's a very well-known problem, I would say. If I remember correctly. I encountered something like that in CS Academy, I remember. Back then, when CS Academy was alive. Minimize deviation in array. What else? I'm scrolling the chat up. I don't need new suggestions. And I won't do code versus problems. Fine. Yeah. Also, you don't need to copy paste your links very often, because I scroll the chat and actually I want to favor those that were before, to not to encourage reposting. Combination I will check. I will choose one of these that I already opened. Close, close, close. Write a function to generate all combinations of well-formed parentheses. And it's up to 8. First missing positive. This is more like a video problem, I would say. What is this? Minimize deviation. After I choose a problem, I will give you a link. Birth date. It's in June of 1995. If element is even, divide by 2. Odd, multiply by 2. Yeah, I did this problem during a stream. Why isn't it solved? Maybe I didn't solve it in Leetcode? Chat, help me. Also June 1995. Hello, brother. Maybe we are twins. What do you recommend to prepare for Google Hashcode? Solve past problems. Perfectly do it with your team. And that's it. How do you remain so calm? Should I be like angry at the chat? What emotions do you expect? Different. Oh, I'm not logged in my account. Damn it. Now I will relog. You see, I don't have good memory, and I won't be surprised if even some of the problems I did solve today, if I already solved it before. Damn it. All right. Yeah, now I'm logged in and I have some submission from this is December or this is March? Anyway, 2020. Time to be angry? Yeah. All right, I'm back. Among Us t-shirt? Yes, indeed. What were we talking about? Yeah, that I should be angry. Start yelling and throwing stuff around. I like my stuff. I don't want to destroy it. Green screen is kind of good. Yes, I think it's very, very good. Very realistic. Even if you turn off the light, like the green screen adjusts the lighting. It's brand new technology. And I have two Leetcode accounts because only in one of them I bought premium, and by default during streams I was going not to show premium problems because you cannot access them. So I shouldn't either, I would say. So it's kind of like I have private account and business account, let's say. Business. It's still private account, just where I paid for subscription. Let's do this one, the one where we need to generate a lot of stuff. First missing positive is more like a topic for a video. BFS seems to show up for shortest path, I believe, DFS nearly everywhere else. Yes, BFS is exactly to find shortest paths in a graph without weights. If edges are weighted, so they have some values, then it's Dijkstra or Floyd-Warshall. Does premium help? No. It helps me because my work is related to this. Like, for example, I stream, but you don't need premium if you're practicing. Generally, you don't need access to hundreds of problems if you're practicing. There are enough free resources in the internet. All right, yeah, we are solving this. Oh, it's 20-second problem. One of the first few in Hall of Leetcode. Write a function to generate all combinations of well-formed parentheses. I think it's very easy here to mess this up and to double count some parentheses. Consider this. Well, we know that we can either, well, if n is 0, we just return an empty vector, or just with empty string. Let's say that this. And then I need to say that either I open bracket, then I have something, then I close bracket, or I have something and then something. Like example of this is where you do, I don't know, this. Right? This is a good bracket sequence, or what do they call it? Well-formed parentheses, whatever. In programming, you call it bracket sequence or something like that. N can't be 0. I'm going to run this recursively. I'm going to reuse it. So if you can run this recursively, you can grab possible s here by running it for n-2. Something like this. For every string, in generate, that's too hard of a word for me, so I will copy paste. For every string, if in this for n-2, let's gather all, how to call it, answer. I always name things answer. I think it's a bad habit. Answer pushback a string with, well, basically this. And also consider this split into one string and then another string. Actually, every such sequence has even length, but it doesn't matter. Like if, for example, my length is 6, then I will consider splitting into 1 and 5, but just they will not generate anything. That's like whatever. Generate parentheses of n1 and n2, and then combine all the pairs. And now this solution is wrong. And I think that if you didn't solve this problem before, it will be very hard to realize why this is wrong without actually running it. Let's run the code. Check if n is smaller than 0. Do I need that? Well, if n is even, oh, actually the given n is length of half of this. I see. So maybe like this. Yeah. Like if I'm given 3, I want 3 pairs, then I get down to 2 pairs. Output empty, expected this. And yeah, I think it's a little bit better to go with empty string here, or to say if n is 1, return at least this. So we could start with something. Is it wrong because you should return 1 empty string for recursion when n is 0 instead of empty vector? Yes, but I don't want this empty string to be there. All right, now this is better. And the only issue here that I expect is that some elements will occur twice, and this is the case. You see this open, close, open, close, open, close? It's also here at the end. I'm sure that if now I get rid of repetitions, and this is one way to do that, or let's do it in a very lazy manner. Let's create for a moment a set and then cast it back to vector. This is quite slow way, but it should work. I believe that this will work, but it becomes much slower. When you introduce set, you need to in particular sort there inside the set. You can also do unordered set, then it's hashing, but it's quite slow. Okay, I solved this problem before as well. Nice. Am I logged in? I am logged in. Why didn't I see the code? A year ago I solved this problem. Why not use set instead of vector from the start? Oh yeah, sure, it's the same. If you know how to prove Catalan's numbers, it's so much easier to understand this. Of course, yeah. Understanding Catalan numbers are mostly about seeing what is happening here. What's 0 milliseconds runtime? It's rounded, so doesn't matter. Don't look at runtime too much. Worry about your complexity. Well, this is backtrack. I mean, it's hard to say what's the complexity here. It's exponential, but then just worry about getting accepted. I hate when interviewers after every 5 seconds ask what's going on in your mind. Plug off the Wi-Fi cable. You know, you can say out loud that you need a minute to think about this, and just then after a minute or two start talking something. Or say, okay, I'm thinking about BFS and making some drawing, but then you will be allowed to be silent for a minute. Dry run once, you mean to simulate this? I mainly want to say about this repetition and how to avoid this, to make the code actually very fast. But yes, instead of vector, I can have a set, just at the end cast it to vector, because we need to return vector. This is what they told us, or you can make a helper function. But the issue is this. When we say that a string can consist of 2 concatenated strings, S1, S2, there's double counting, because if I want to find, in particular, let's say this string, it's too complicated. Let's go with that. Maybe this should be in the answer for n equal to 4. Then there are 2 ways to find it, either by concatenating this with that, or this with that. Both ways are valid, and I will find them both. So this thing will occur twice. There is a way to fix this. If you say that always if something consists of a lot of strings that could themselves be a valid string, then you only want to count this once, and let's say that then I only want to count this concatenation. So always when I do S1 plus S2, I want S1 to be, let's say, a basic string. Basic means that I created it by encapsulating something in open and close brackets. Inside there might be something more complicated, like this, but what's important is this cannot be split into two smaller parts. And this is what I call basic. Maybe a better word for this is atomic. I think it's used in some parts of programming. So something that cannot be split. So those S1 needs to be a string created this way, where I, surround it with brackets like this. So what about we run this here with n1 minus 1. So I actually find the inside of this, and then I say this. So I combine two strings s1, s2, and s1 is this part that I then put in brackets, and then s2 is whatever. The important thing is I don't double count anything, because every string consisting of a plus b, it uniquely can be determined by saying that we are looking for the first a that is in brackets. Friday code forces, please. I don't want to make more streams. I anyway don't have time to prepare for them. My streams already became like something where I don't prepare. I don't have time to, sometimes spend a few hours and then make a very valuable lecture stream. So I will not do more streams more frequently. This set trick also works, but it's slower. Let's try to do this without hash map, which is pessimistic quadratic, and set or sorting that is logarithmic. And here n minus 1, this must be at least 0, I would say. So what now? For 0 this will be empty, that's bad. What about saying will this work? If n1 is exactly 1, then this is empty, but I won't consider empty string because then it will be enclosed with this. Yeah. So, and now I'm getting rid of this. I claim that I will not double count anything. I hope. Worked there. And yes, accepted. I think that this faster code, it will run recursively to fix every next character. But we'll see. So I bet that it's something like this. Recursively, you get already some string, and also along with the balance is the number of openings that are not closed yet, and it considers then appending a new open bracket, increasing balance by 1, or you can close, decreasing balance by 1, unless it was already 0. Something like this is an alternative to what I did here. Now let's see. Yeah, I thought, how would I do it to make it fast? This is how would I do it. I did it this way. You get a string recursively and some balance, also some other variables like something to store answer in, and then you keep going, increasing balance by 1 or decreasing by 1. I wonder if this was done during a stream. Most likely it was. Now it resembles the well-formed parenthesis grammar, which is like S is this dot. Oh, interesting. Parenthesis grammar. For languages, there is something like grammar that defines it. it's a big topic actually. Yeah, but I don't want to read about this now. Cool. Thank you, Itarin. That was actually a very interesting fact. Show us your previous solution. Yes, I did. Tutorial on graphs. A lot of my videos and streams are tutorials on graphs because I do graph problems. My attempt. Generate this, generate that. So you count opened and closed brackets, right? And the thing about it is that you don't need two variables. It's enough for you to know the balance between them. It doesn't matter that LR are 3-5 or 2-4. It's just important how many opened brackets are not closed yet. And you cannot go to negative balance. But yeah, this is fine code. I had one more if in this old code. This one, if balance is greater than this. If you need to add 3 characters like to finish the string, but balance is right now +5, you will not get down to 0. So as written here in the comments, optional speedup. Do you do most problems off stream or on stream? Nowadays I do more problems on the stream because I don't practice a lot outside of the stream. I'm mainly retired. Explain the last part. Which part? I wouldn't say there are parts here. So what? Yeah, I don't know what I would explain here. Which part? But I will happily explain. Formal languages and automata theory. Yes, that was something that I encountered in university. I studied computer science a little bit. Quality over quantity streams. Yes, I agree. And on the other hand, it's convenient for viewers, and so also in general, it's good to stream regularly. Like in particular, if I had time to just stream every day for 1 hour in the same time, then you always know that you can come and watch for half an hour if you want. It's not really very educational, like it will not be well-prepared topic, but you will learn something, I think. You can't retire, just win Google Code Jam first. I don't know. I would need to spend a lot of time to get significantly better. I don't want to spend that time. In particular, I think it's much more beneficial for the world as the whole, the sum of happiness in the world, if I just teach, rather than spend thousands of hours more to practice. Suggestions for hash code: solve past problems and read online discussions on solutions. In Code Forces there are some. Just Google Code Forces hash code 2018, and maybe there will be discussion what winners did. Also try very easy, very easy ideas. Not to be rude, but you're from East Europe. Actually, this is a very funny comment. I remember this from some kind of TV series. So I'm referring to this. By saying not to be rude, you're making the comment rude. So imagine talking in a group of people and you're saying, oh, I don't know, let's say, I pity the stupid people, something like that. I pity the stupid people because they can't get a good job, something like that. Then you turn to your friend and you say, no offense. Then exactly you made it wrong by saying no offense. So I don't know how on purpose this was, but not to be, if you cross this out, everything is fine. Are you from East Europe? Yeah, I guess you You guessed from my accent. Not to be rude. Okay, so now you made it rude. I'm not offended, by the way. It's funny. Yes, I'm from East Europe. Did you ask tourist how he prepares for contest? He practices. Removing the duplicate part. Oh, this is what you meant. Yeah. So you see, every string. So the issue was this. Something like this we double counted, because we counted it in the following two ways, like this and like that. Generally, if imagine that a string consists of multiple parts, each enclosed with brackets. Right? Now, something like that you would count 4 times, because you would consider this kind of merge, and so on. But you want to find just one unique merge. You want to uniquely create this. So let's say that we always create it like that. So the left string, the S1 that we take here, it should be once enclosed in brackets. When combining two strings, you don't want to allow this situation where it's something in brackets with something in brackets. So you need to do it like that. So now I could just iterate over A and B and say if S1 is of this type, then allow combining S1, S2. But instead of checking if S1 is of this type, let's just force S1 to be of this type, and let's just say that S1 is here and S2 is arbitrary. S2 doesn't have any extra conditions. S1 just needs to be something enclosed in brackets. And now this is unique. You will not double count anything. Previous comment, you can say that when any 0 returns vector of single empty string. Yes, but then I will need to return something from the output. You see, I agree that this is easier if I do that, because then I think I don't need this if. But maybe actually I can do something else to avoid this if. But here they don't want an empty string. So even if here I made an empty string, later in some way I would need to remove it. Or not. For bigger N, actually I don't use it. My mouse is dying. Oh, I think this still works. That's nice. I was thinking that because I create here empty string, it will propagate. So maybe I thought more about this being a problem where we find all the strings with length up to n. But no, when n is given, it's greater than 0, then I won't try to replicate this. I will use it to combine it with something else, and that's valid. All right, that's nice. So thank you, Itarin, again, for a good catch. All right, I missed a lot of messages. Maybe that's not a good format, displaying stuff. Generating the first answer and moving the closing parentheses one by one to the left. Oh, I think that's complicated. I think that there are other ways like this one, but it's not easier. I don't see tourist practicing on code farces. It's enough that he solves contests, and he solves, let's say, everything during a contest, and it will still be more than I do while practicing. So, he actually practices more than other people, because I always see him in code chef contests. He does code chef, top coder, ad coder, code farces, and I would guess that from the past, let's say, year, from Division 1 problems, I would say that he solved around 70%. So don't say that he doesn't practice. He does. You don't need to part with generating outer brackets if you let n1 to be n. Oh, okay. Then this can be simplified even more. Indeed, this case of putting something in brackets is resolved with this empty string if we allow n1 to be n. No, if we allow n1 to be n, because then a is something and then that's enclosed in brackets, and thanks to empty string, s2 is considered to be an empty string. So that's even shorter. Thank you for the third time. Space and time curves around him. Yes, I think he has some cheats to think faster. So maybe it's that time passes slower for him, and that's the trick. Major takeaways from this problem. I wouldn't say that something is meaningful. I mean, you shouldn't remember something from this. This was just a practice of generating all the possibilities. The only thing that I would remember from that is that if you want to avoid repetitions, you need to define unique way to build, construct an object. By this I mean there are multiple ways to represent how some string consists of concatenation of smaller strings. But there is a way to say uniquely how it's constructed. Similarly, if you represent number as product of things, this is one way to represent it. This is the other way. A lot of ways. But also maybe this. But you want to set some standards, or maybe for some other reason you'd want to avoid double counting. Then let's say a number can uniquely be constructed as product of some other things if you say that you just consider primes, you list down prime divisors, and you sort them. This is unique representation. So if you want to construct 21s from some smaller values, then always we need to every time multiply something by next bigger prime to simulate this order, non-decreasing order. Not necessarily after 2 you need to multiply by 3, it's just that you need to go in increasing order. Then you will avoid double counting. So maybe that's some takeaway. How can runtime be 0 milliseconds? It's rounded. Will you not double count if you swapped the 2's? I mean, you would get the same thing, so no. Consider this. I believe that if you run this code, starting with product equal to 1 and last prime equal to, I don't know, 2, this will count 20 only once. Also, we need to stop. So let's say if product greater than 20, return. I think nothing will be double counted here. Thanks to this representation where I understood that I don't want to count separately 522 and 252. I don't want to count 45 for any reason. Just I want unique representation of something. Then I will go always, if I know the last used prime in the product, then always the next prime to use should be not smaller than the previous one. Okay. I claim that this, if you run rec of 1 and last prime used was 2 or even -1, whatever, and you pre-computed primes, so this is vector of primes from 1 to 20 at least, this thing will happen only once. In discrete math, when we count objects, we try to sort them, most common form of invariance. And in this case, it's S and this. Maybe it helps someone. In this case, it's this. I'm trying to understand your comment, Onion. I know something in math too. We count objects, we try to sort them. Most common form of invariance. So you mean that, do you mean that we should find kind of lexicographically smallest representation? Hashcode warmup? I don't know. Most likely no, I will not. Yeah, I'm going only in ascending order of primes, never allowing from 5 get back to 2, because then I would double count something. 99% of audience are boys, around that. In YouTube I can see statistics and I think it's around 97%. Also, it's similar for age. 90% of people watching me are from 16 to 27 maybe. Yeah, I don't want new suggestions. I will finish the stream now. Maybe let's try to find somebody to raid if they do coding interviews. If not, then I will skip raiding today. I still don't fully understand this thing with sorting. The way I can understand it is that we find lexicographically smallest representation. I'm 12, right? Then you belong to the 10%. Like if we sort by age, maybe then you belong to 1%. There are a lot of talented streamers on Twitch, but I don't. It's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for me to just always get a random person, even if it's unrelated. Yeah, so no raid today. Do you know oracles? No, I don't know what that is, or who that is rather. Usually watch the VODs because busy at this time, and I'm glad you joined. Alrighty. Thank you all for nice comments. Like in the current solution, we represent a sequence by saying that A is in the first place. When the balance gets to 0, that's what Onion means by sorting. Oh, all right. So for the balance, when we go like this, this is related to this balance starting with 0. We increase by 1 and decrease by, we increase by 1 when we open a bracket, decrease by 1 when we close one. like this, and here this is this moment with 0. Imagine counting all sum equals to constants. Same, we sort all terms by saying we don't allow at some point last element be lower than previous. Oh, I see. I think I see. Okay, this is how I think about it now. Actually, I think it's different from what you said, but well, we compare this to a number, where kind of this is combination of this and the remaining part. Oh, I didn't know I can do this. This is some fast coding. All right, I don't know how you can turn that mode on. Anyway, yeah, if you want to create this sequence, you have that plus the remaining part. And like this is the shortest possible thing here. Like there we say 2 times 5 times 2. Yeah, I cannot say that I fully understand it. But all right, I'm getting something. Hello, I'm late. I don't know. Maybe you are just right on time, depending on what you wanted to see. We're in the end game, I guess. I mean, it's just one episode, so more like at the end of a movie in the series of tens of movies. All right, thank you all for watching. Really, someone's behind you. I can see in camera myself and my background, so I don't need to turn around. But thank you all for commenting, for hanging out with me. Stop and get water. I'm going to get water, and I'm going to create posture check and hydrate commands. Maybe, eventually, next time.